Japan. For so many people, it's the absolute dream destination. You think of this incredible land of beauty, efficiency, and a culture that is just endlessly fascinating. But there's something else happening. Beneath that shiny surface, a surprising number of foreign professionals who moved there with huge hopes are now packing their bags and leaving. So what's really going on? Is that dream of living in Japan crashing head-on into a much tougher reality? That's exactly what we're going to unpack here, the real, boots-on-the-ground reasons behind this surprising trend. Okay, so let's get into the numbers, because this is where you see the real puzzle. On one hand, Japan is desperately trying to attract foreign talent. Arrivals are hitting all-time highs. But at the exact same time, the number of people leaving is also incredibly high. It's created this revolving door effect. Skilled people come in, but then they turn right back around and leave, taking all their skills with them. So to figure out why, we have to start with the day-to-day stuff. We're talking about the cultural friction and this deep, sinking feeling of isolation. It's this idea that no matter what you do, no matter how well you speak the language, you might always be a gaijin, an outsider. And look, this isn't some subtle hint. It can be incredibly blunt. This is a quote that foreigners have reported hearing word for word from landlords when they're just trying to find an apartment. I mean, just imagine hearing that. It's a punch to the gut, an unmistakable message that you just don't belong here. And this isn't just a one-off story from an angry landlord. Japan's own Ministry of Justice did a study and found that a staggering 40% of foreigners have faced discrimination just trying to rent a place to live. Think about that for a second. For almost half of the people, the very first step of building a life, finding a home, is a huge hurdle. Sometimes the friction isn't that overt. Sometimes it's just the sheer rigidity of everything. Let's take out the garbage. Sounds simple, right? Oh no. In Japan, it's practically rocket science. There are dozens of rules. You have to buy special, expensive bags. There are strict schedules, quotas, and if you make one tiny mistake, they literally leave your trash on your doorstep with what's basically a failure notice. For a newcomer, that level of constant microscopic rule following is just exhausting. Now, that intense pressure doesn't stop when you leave your apartment. It follows you right into the office, where Japan's work culture presents a whole other level of challenges. And honestly, sometimes it can be downright dangerous. The work culture is so extreme, so well known, that there's a specific word for its worst possible outcome: karoshi. It literally translates to death by overwork. Just let that sink in for a moment. It's a recognized social problem, a word that exists because it happens often enough to need one. And the scale of this problem is just chilling. Officially, the government says around 400 deaths a year are from karoshi-related events, like strokes or heart attacks. But experts who study this believe that's just the tip of the iceberg. They estimate the real number could be as high as 20,000 people a year. It's like this hidden epidemic, disguised as dedication. So you have to ask, what is driving all this pressure? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is this cultural stigma against taking time off. In a place that values group harmony above almost everything else, using your vacation days can be seen as selfish. It's like you're letting the team down. It's almost a shameful thing to do. And that's not just a vibe people get. When you ask Japanese employees why they don't take their paid leave, the answers are all about this incredible social pressure. They feel awkward and guilty if their coworkers are still at their desks. The atmosphere in the office makes it really hard to even bring it up. They worry that they'll disrupt the workflow of the entire team. And believe me, the consequences for not following these unwritten rules are very, very real. Take paternity leave. It's the law, but a government survey found that after men took it, 1 in 5 were bullied by their boss, 17% had their pay cut, and 1 in 10 were actually demoted. You're literally punished for trying to be a good father. But all right, let's say you can handle it. You navigate the cultural stuff, you survive the crazy work hours, there's still one final massive factor that's pushing people out the door: the cold, hard math of money. This timeline it's just mind-boggling. For the last 30 years, while wages in most other developed countries have been climbing, salaries in Japan have basically flatlined. Someone could work their entire adult life and see almost zero real growth in their paycheck. You're working harder and harder, but you're just not getting ahead. And now, that problem has been put on steroids by the super weak yen. So you work those insane hours, you manage to save up, say, 150,000 yen. That feels like a decent amount of money. But then you go to send it home to your family or pay off student loans, and poof, its value just disappears. What used to be a good chunk of savings is now worth so much less back home. So, is that a big deal? It's the deal breaker. For foreign workers who often move for better pay in the first place, this is the final straw. Japanese media reports that a whopping 91% of foreigners who are planning to leave say the weak yen is the #1 reason. It's simple math, and the math just doesn't work anymore. So, when you put all the pieces together, that feeling of being a permanent outsider, the crushing work culture, and an economy where your hard work isn't paying off, well, a lot of people are reaching a pretty tough conclusion. Because even if you want to tough it out, building a long-term life there can feel impossible. You hit what people call the permanent residency wall. The rules are unbelievably strict. You have to live there for 10 straight years. If you leave the country even once in the year before you apply, you could be rejected. A single late tax payment, a couple of small traffic tickets, and you can be disqualified. It sends a pretty clear message. We want your work, but we're not so sure we want you. And that right there sums up the whole conflict, doesn't it? The dream of Japan is totally real. It is one of the safest, cleanest, most efficient places on the planet. But the reality of living there day in and day out is this constant struggle against rigid rules, feeling isolated, intense pressure at work, and a paycheck that feels like it's shrinking. Which leaves us with this one big final question. And this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. It's a very real question that thousands of talented people are asking themselves every single year as they weigh that undeniable magic of the dream against the very heavy price of the reality.